All right, so let's do the third exercise, our third walkthrough, where we're going to explore Vimeo's RESTful API. It's a truly RESTful API. I personally like it very much. So I'm going to use my cheat sheet to go directly to Vimeo. This developer Vimeo, it's easy to type if you want to. You can also find it on page 8 in your manual. Okay. Cool. Again, I'm not interested in getting started, even though if I was a brand new developer, probably I'm going to go through the getting started, get my bearings. What I'm interested in is this API reference. That's what I'm interested in. And as soon as I expand it, I'm going to see elements that identify with the business that Vimeo is in. Categories, channels, videos all the way to the bottom, users, tutorials, teams, and so on, right? All of these are elements that in the business that Vimeo operates under. These have a different name too. They're called domain objects, right? Domain objects. A domain object is the software equivalent of the business object that a particular organization works with. For example, in a banking industry, you have accounts, customers, and so on, right? In the old days, you had like file cabinets and pen and paper type of a uh, filing system, right, to keep track of everybody. Nowadays we have software and we need the corresponding software elements, right, to identify those business objects, these domain objects. Okay, that's what a domain object is. And on our case, we're going to go to categories and we're going to go to the essentials, I believe, if my memory serves me well. Yep, essentials. And we're going to expand the get all categories. Let's start with get all categories. So here's the operation that gets all the different categories, right? Retrieves all the different categories. And the method is get, of course, and the path is slash categories. I'm telling you this is the path because the rest, HTTPS up until vimeo.com, is your endpoint, right? The endpoint is where is this located, where this API is located at, is installed at. Where do I send the corresponding request in order to be processed successfully? So that's your endpoint, and the operation is the get slash categories. Right. So as you can see, the English verbiage of this operation matches very closely with the actual operation, right? Slash categories, that's the domain objects that I would like to retrieve. And it's a retrieval because I'm doing a get. If I would like to create something, I'm going to be doing a post slash categories. This one is retrieval. The other thing that is important is that you see query parameters, and these query parameters pretty much are there to filter your data, search your data. Query. Query synonym for search, right? So a query parameter in the HTTP protocol is used to filter your data. So very similarly, we're doing the same exact thing right here, right? So we are trying to filter our data, search our data. Okay, and here you go. Here's the response, 200 OK. You can see an example. Here it is. And then you can select the reference and you can go in a separate page in order to see the information about the data you're retrieving. Typing information, some descriptions, and so on. I'm going to use my back arrow to go back where I was. Because I want to point out, look at how much response am I looking at. I'm only looking at the successful response. I'm not looking at the error responses, right? You don't see any error responses here because they're not needed. Why? Because RESTful APIs makes use of the semantics of the HTTP protocol. So I already know what 401 means, right? 401 means unauthorized. I know 403, forbidden. I know 404, not found. I know what's the meaning of all those HTTP status codes. So why specify those codes if I already know the meaning? It's unnecessary. You pick the language, you stick with it. And if you stick with it, now you do not have to specify tons of documentation documenting all your different error codes. And people who already know the HTTP protocol, they're way ahead of the game. Your common denominator in all RESTful APIs is the HTTP protocol. You do not just use it for communication like we were looking at in SOAP, in XML RPC, in JSON RPC, in the Slack RPC. You do not use it as a simple protocol for communicating data. You use it as the protocol for encoding your request and your responses and also sending the data, communicating the data over the internet. And that's the beauty of REST. You use this one protocol for the encoding and the communication. And that's what keeps things simple. That's why I love the RESTful APIs, personally. The other thing I would like to show you is this get specific category. I'm going to collapse the get all categories, and I'm going to show you one of the most common design patterns in RESTful APIs. This design pattern is called a collection and the member. Get all categories is the collection. Get a specific category is the member. So if I go ahead and I expand this get specific category, watch. The path is pretty much identical to getting all categories with an extra piece of information right at the end, an extra part in the path. This is called a URI parameter or a path parameter. Right? In RAML it's called URI, in OpenAPI specification it's called path. Pick whichever one you want. This is a parameter that identifies a unique domain object. Think of this as being your unique lookup. Previously, we were talking about give me all categories and please filter the data based upon the query parameters. This says out of the list of categories that we're managing, give me the one identified uniquely by whatever value you specify in this path parameter. So this is a very common syntax there. That's what I was looking for. This is a very common syntax where the curly braces indicate a URI parameter, something that's going to be replaced with something else in order to perform this unique lookup. And that's why if you look on the API playground, you have the ability to come in the category and type something. So I'm going to go and type animation like this. Right? And I know that if I send the request, it's going to say get category / animation. That's what it's going to do. Now it says make the call. I'm not sure whether they fixed it. I know it wasn't working for the Well, here it is. It works. It wasn't working for the longest time. Right? But right now it works. Here it is. And now I'm getting only the animation category. Here's the data. Good. Kudos to Vimeo. They fixed this. It was broken for the longest time. And this, my good people, is what RESTful APIs are all about. And again, you start working with RESTful APIs, you can always go to the Mozilla Developers Network and identify, okay, what's the meaning of this header, right? What's the meaning of this cookie, and so on. You can see all that stuff. Maybe less so in the cookie side, but definitely on the header side. What's the meaning of this method? What's the meaning of this HTTP status codes, and so on. All of that is already known. No need to be documented yet again. And with this, my good people, we concluded the third exercise. Talk to you in the next.